Men who had a choice between loving two women and realized they made the wrong choice. What happened? One was better for me for my health goals, respected me and was even better financially. The other looked better and at the time respected me. So I chose the better looking one. I regretted that the moment I did it. Attraction matters, but it's a shame we can be so superficial that given the choice between pretty and physically beautiful, we often choose the latter no matter what. It's sad so much of the appearance is either youth or makeup. Having been in this situation, I believe that this is more reflective of you than it is of any two potential partners. One may meet your needs at the time better, be it financial stability, sex, friendship, etc., whereas the other may appeal to your top level attraction that you feel you can match with when you are your best self. Both of these relationships are feeding something that you feel is missing within you and not actually reflective of what the relationship would be like with each person. Quite often we romanticize another person filling the needs we are missing in our current relationship when it can potentially be met through direct communication or honesty with ourselves. Instead, look, we all know you chose the one with bigger titties. Haha. 7 years ago I was with a very shallow but stable materialistic woman. She was only with me because the sex was good and I bought her gifts. Essentially a FWB with a couple extra strings attached. My best friend, female, at the time kept telling me to leave her and admitted she had fallen for me after we met up, gaming buddies for years. She had recently moved to my city for work. My best friend ended up being manipulative, abusive and more damaging than the shallow ex ever could have been. Wow. Did not see that coming. Not sure if these choices are ever actually predictable. Yeah, I'm just that lucky. My former best friend did teach me a valuable lesson at least. Stay single, in my case. As a disclaimer, I'm not against relationships. Just recognized a losing streak, so cutting the losses. Hey. Time to both get to know yourself and figure out how to spot the warning signs of both of those sets of problems doesn't sound like a bad idea. There's a really interesting article and it's possibly also a podcast or TED Talk about how you will absolutely marry the wrong person. It's about how everyone sucks in their own way. So as long as both people are trying their best in good faith, i.e. not abuse or manipulation, you'll be more or less just as happy and unhappy with other partners as you would be with your current partner. Interesting read. Regardless if you agree with it. I took a family law class in university and the professor was a divorce lawyer. His advice that for whatever reason stuck with me ever since was pick your favorite train wreck and roll with it. It was along the lines of the premise you mentioned, where you don't exactly marry the perfect or right person, but rather the one that works the best for you and works the best with you. I feel like he would have dealt with a biased sample. Do divorce lawyers ever interact with successful relationships? My old employer did mediations and was married to his partner. I think they learned a lot on how to improve their own marriage by knowing what not to do, and they knew how to help mediate by using their own relationship techniques. They were both really bizarre, but absolutely perfectly matched. It's impossible to accurately measure a marriage by much other than time. Sometimes a shitty marriage lasts a lifetime due to inertia. Sometimes a perfect match has an expiration date. One was a better fit for me. The other offered a more stable life situation. I picked #2 and have regretted it every day for the last 12 years. #2 and I lasted barely a year. On the other hand, you have absolutely no idea how things would work out with the other person, so don't think too much about it. I made the wrong choice decades ago and recently managed to secure a date with the one I wish I had chosen in the first place. Don't think too much about it isn't an option. Your brain will think about it no matter what. No matter the amount of booze. No matter how deep you're drowning in work. No matter how many nuts you bust. Your comment came from a good place maybe, but telling a drowning man to just stop drowning ain't it, chief? I chose the estranged mother of my child over a woman I'd start seeing who during the first several months seemed like the one. In every impactful way. My child's mom approached me after being separated for several months asking for another chance. This decision was more for my son than me, and I'm not saying I would do this again. And it's definitely not the right choice for everyone. But I broke things off with the new girl, as incredible as she was, and picked up the pieces with my ex. for 2 years. This felt like the absolute wrong choice. We attended intense therapy for 2 years. Through very tough times. We built our love up brick by brick. Both grew a lot after rough childhoods. And really changed ourselves and how we viewed each other, and are today happily married. This is the best story yet. But interesting because I'm sure if you had answered this question during those first 2 years you would have said you had made the wrong choice. You're right. The endpoints we select for the chapters in our life can influence whether we think they're happy or sad periods. Love this comment. Keep in mind that in this scenario, you only know that you had 2 choices and the one you chose failed. You have no guarantee that the other choice was going to turn out any better. End communication. Exactly. Just because one was the wrong choice doesn't mean the other was a good choice. Been in that situation where the choice was made for me. 2 girls. Couldn't pick one until one walked away. I sometimes think where I'd be if I was with the other girl. Chances are I'd be right here, thinking how different things would be with my ex. Exactly. Adding to that, your wrong choice may have still been the best choice at the time. If given the option between being kicked in the shins or kicked in the balls. You'll hear me complaining about being kicked in the shins. Doesn't mean I made the wrong decision. Can't say I've had this problem with women, but I have at my local smokehouse. I always choose the rib platter when my heart really wants the ribby and fries. But the rib platter always leaves you satisfied and never lets you down. It's there for you when you need it most. Loyal, steadfast, tender. You are so funny and poetic. I think I love you. Classic Schmosby. Part of the learning process of life. Married the one I shouldn't have. And let the other one get away. Only in hindsight did I realize I completely messed it up and chose the wrong one by painful experience when the other would definitely have been perfect. Eventually came to know this as a refutable fact. How did you come to know that you should have chosen the other? Becoming aware years later that the way the right one turned out would have been an absolute perfect match for me, perfect fit for who I am, while the woman I married was exceptionally skilled at selling a big lie before the marriage, but then after the marriage eventually returned to a life of substance abuse that I never knew she had before I met her. I still kick myself to this day for letting the other one get away. In hindsight, the other one did give off better vibes than the one I was already engaged to. Should have called off the marriage. But nope, I was a dumbass trying to be noble. I paid dearly for it. I chose the wrong woman. She wound up being extremely manipulative, including lying about being on birth control and subsequently getting pregnant. The pregnancy ended with a miscarriage. She continued to manipulate and abuse me until she got bored with me and dumped me. My life has been fairly miserable since. The other woman found a great guy who she wound up marrying a few years ago. Okay, so great result for the other option. One was a long-term friend, LTF, and seemed complicated. She didn't seem to like me as much as the other one. She had some weird friends that I didn't want to have to deal with, aka the package deal. She was less forthcoming with her emotions and she sometimes just seemed distant for days at a time. The other was somewhat immature, acted very shy, but seemed to be almost obsessed with me. It seemed almost like a manic pixie dream girl fairytale. You all probably know how this went. I went with the one who seemed obsessed with me, and it turns out she didn't actually suit me better. She just made me feel loved and wanted I quicker. She was emotionally unstable, prone to outbursts, hard to communicate with, etc. Meanwhile, the LTF and I decided to remain friends. The twist is that after a year or so, we all got the opportunity to move in together. Pixie girl, LTF, another friend and myself. During this time together LTF and me seemed to become the de facto adults of the house. As time wore on I started to respect LTF more and more. She didn't show as much emotion, but when she did you knew she meant it. She was less prone to make rash decisions. She was more reliable, more caring in a deep way vs Pixie girl's love bombing. It all came to a head when Pixie girl and I broke up. I ended up in tears in the kitchen because I couldn't keep up with all the emotional roller coastering I had to contend with, and it broke me a little. LTF and other friends saw me in tears and helped me build up the courage to break up with Pixie girl. They never pushed me for it, just helped me through it. 2 months later, and LTF came up to me in the same kitchen and told me that she thinks she likes me. Now it's been 3 years of us being a couple and I've never been happier. I'm in love with her, just like I was 3 years ago. There was never a honeymoon phase. It felt like buying a house that you already called home. Lost them both. Sometimes the only winning move is not to play. Found the WOPR's account. The one I chose never reciprocated my feelings and basically used me like a sugar daddy. Finally I got sick of it and kicked her out. We didn't speak for months. Just as we were patching things up she died. I'm not saying that I'm glad that she died, but if we had gotten back together it would have only caused more damage to my life than she already had. The other one moved on, and I think she got married. She's currently living out of state now, so even if she's single it's not a real possibility. Wow, great question. Can't answer as luckily I made the right choice. But I'll grab the popcorn. Luckily I made the right choice, that's an answer. Just not as entertaining for the peanut gallery. Some people get a choice. Sometimes it's worse to have too many choices. I didn't make the wrong choice. Just the less right choice. It wasn't a choice between perfection and a monster. Both were great. One just really changed for the worse as the years rolled on. Had an open relationship with a girl, and then had a girl move in as a roommate. Fell for the roommate, but was paralyzed between making a choice because I didn't want to hurt my open girlfriend. Ended up taking too long to choose, hurting both of them, and ultimately losing both of them in the process. I would recommend at least making a choice and following through with it, lest you lose both options. Wow. If you really can't choose between two partners, then the answer is neither. Your partner should be the clear choice with no question. This comment should be higher. Nah, that's vague and thus bad advice. Life would be so much easier if we can see who's clearly the chosen one. Didn't happen with me, but happened to a woman who went with a different guy then wanted to leave him and be with me. Obviously I told her the train has long gone and wished her luck with the next one. Guys, take the uncomplicated 7 that owns her ass over any 10 that you can't fully trust. Preach. Mentioned this one before, but worth repeating. Early 20s, last year of college in post, I started dating A while working with B. At the time, I was in med school and I was working in retail with B. On surface, I was the right choice for a stable future. B liked to party and was still unsure about what she wanted in life. And when I say B liked to party, think getting wasted every weekend and doing coke. One day, B came to me at work and professed her love to me and told me she was on deck if I ever broke up with A, but would not stick around for long. I chose A. We got married and we were together for 12 years total, no kids. In the 12 years, I became an MD and really progressed professionally. But, like anyone in the healthcare industry will tell you, there's a lot of shady transgressions going on. I uncovered 3 affairs by A. I bailed and divorced when I knew A had major daddy issues and would always step out on the marriage. While all that was going on, B found a man, got married, had 2 kids. She really settled down. Her friends now consider her one of the most boring people they know. She's a teacher, cooks, does boxing and runs races. When I divorced A, B was still married. I met my nice lady and got engaged, and around the same time, got a message from B, so me and my hubby got divorced. Guess timing was always off. On paper, I picked the right partner, but there are times I ask what if. Ultimately, what happened doesn't matter because I can't change the past. I can only learn from it and move forwards. Plus I doubt person B would have worked any better. Okay, so you didn't make the wrong choice. No, I read that as both were wrong choices. My story is very long, and I'm still coming to grips with it, and it's been over a decade. Basically my tale of 2 girlfriends ends with losing both of them. If you can't make a choice between 2 women, best option is to walk away. Walking away is the honorable thing to do. I was hanging out with this one girl, friend of the family, horse girl, rich parents, the kind of personality I like, common interests, the works. Then an old crush from my past I thought I'd never seen again came into my field of vision. And I reacted immediately. Long story short, I married the second girl. The relationship turned abusive. I got anger management counseling. She didn't. Believed her anger was always fully justified and righteous. Divorced her. Been alone ever since. I've always kind of wondered whatever happened to that first girl. Well, she's got her horses, I guess. They were both not for me. I went to go date men. Duh. Not exactly love, but back in high school I was crushing on 2 girls equally. One liked me back and one didn't. I went for the one who didn't, and remained a single virgin for quite a while. In the end, not a huge deal. How did you come to that conclusion back in high school? Lost them both and regret it every day since. Granted, I was in my late teens, but it fucked me up so bad. I'll never emotionally recover. Had other GFs since then, but losing them didn't hurt as bad. So there's that at least. Are you still in touch with either of them? Nope. I had to be at least partly the asshole in the situations, so I don't blame them.